Welcome to the TK Show with the Athletic Bay Area's Editor-in-Chief, Tim Kawakami.
Hey everybody, it's Tim Kawakami here at TK Show. We're live from the lobby of the Courtyard Marriott in downtown Oakland, so if you hear some other conversations going on, maybe you want to listen to them. But we are in the middle of some ambient noise there. It's all good because we have a real strong guest, one of my friends. Someone's always good to talk to, and I thought today of all days would be a real good day, and I didn't even know the guy was go out and you're going to shoot a 5 under. We'll talk a little Tiger Woods with KNBR's own Brian Murphy, friend of mine. Brian, how you doing today? Were you watching Tiger at all?
TK, man, Tiger Mania, dude. I used to. This was my job for a living. A living out of following Tiger Woods for the San Francisco Chronicle.
A nice living too. I understand.
And I'm trying to figure that, when Glenn Schwartz gave me that job, what's up, Glenn, the great former sports editor of the Chronicle, in 2000 and 2001 was when I got the assignment to sort of become the national golf writer for the Chronicle. I mean, think how many lifetimes ago that was for all of us, for you, for me, for everybody listening out there, for people who didn't even know what a podcast was, and for us to be talking Tiger Woods all these years later is a hell of it's a comment on a lot of things, but it's a comment most of all about this guy's singular star power and this guy's transformative, transcendent career, which we've always known he's one of the most transcendent and famous athletes in the history of our country. But for him to be back in the news in an era in which we have attention spans that last about 5 seconds, for him to forge his way into our minds again is another accomplishment for this guy. And TK, he may just be beginning. Who knows?
It did hit me. You know, we've all gone through our Tiger stages, right? I mean, you were right there at the height of it. But just to see him at 41 years old, what hit me, Murph, was that I didn't think we would ever see this again. I didn't know. None of us knew. And then we're seeing him pound the ball 320, hitting 3 woods 100 yards in the sky and dropping them like sand wedges on par fives. That's what hit me. It's like I missed this, and I thought we might never see it. Is that what hit you a little bit watching him?
Well, it's a great point, in that, it's funny, you're seeing this now as part of on social media, which didn't exist when Tiger was doing his thing in 2000, but is that you're seeing this, there's a group of people out there that have always been in love with him and never stopped believing. And, you and I, when we're in the sports writing business, we see stars come, we see them go, we see careers end, every career, Joe Montana's back surgeries, or Steve Young is concussed, or, Barry Bonds gets sort of left out of a free agency chase. I mean, careers come to an end in our lifetimes. We say goodbye to guys. So I think in our minds, it was natural for guys like you and me in the sports media, and I think most people, most rational thinking people, that it was over for Tiger, that the world had moved on without him, that Jordan Spieth and Rory McIlroy, to a lesser degree, and Dustin Johnson, and even young Justin Thomas now, that these guys had taken the baton and his time was over. And we had good reason to think that. Starting with his off-the-field travails dating back to 2009, but most of all, his health problems. His back was done, and his knee was done, and then his back was done again, and his back was done again, and his back was done again. And you take a 41-year-old guy with 4 back surgeries and all the problems he's had, and the golf world leaves him behind, it's over. So, here we are. He's played 2 rounds of golf in the Bahamas in a very relaxed environment, but there's no denying that there is something different about this one, and the number one reason why, Tim, is his health. He looks to be pain-free for the first time, and it's going to have to. We're going to have to spend the Christmas break reorganizing our thoughts about what's going to happen in 2018.
Oh man, yeah. People are already talking about Augusta. I personally don't think he's going to be a top competitor for that, but who knows? At this point, you know what? The great ones can pluck it out. Jack Nicklaus, right, at age 46. Are you going to say this guy can compete to win some? Let's not even say majors. Let's say can he win some titles in the future?
Oh man, it's the question, right? So I'm going to say right now. Okay, so I've gone through so many. I rode with him very long I had a Yahoo Sports golf column I wrote all the way up till a couple years ago when I had to retire. Just too much stuff going on. But I was always saying that I thought that Tiger still had a chance to catch Jack, and my reason was that the Masters and Augusta National and Tiger Woods may be as good a fit as anything I've ever seen in sports. I don't know whether Mickey Mantle in center field at Yankee Stadium, whatever analogy you want, Michael Jordan and a drive to the hoop. But Augusta National and Tiger, even in his worst days, whether he was in mental pain or physical pain, he came off that embarrassment of the Thanksgiving '09 where his life collapsed. And go back and look at that 2010 Masters.
Yep.
He almost won the darn thing.
Yep.
So I've always thought that when he gets to Augusta National, anything can happen. And I've always thought that he could maybe steal one or two more of those Masters. And then finally, Tim, in the last couple of years, I just said, there's just no, he can't do it. Every time he swung in 2013, 14, 15, 16, I expected him to wince or limp or do something like that. Now, if this spinal fusion surgery takes, and they say that the surgeries have gotten better than they did 10 years ago, that you can have this spinal fusion surgery and feel no more pain. So if he's going to be pain-free, I will say this, he will definitely win a PGA Tour event or two, whether it's Bay Hill or something like that, Torrey Pines, one of those. And I would not write him off at the Masters in April. I'm not saying he's going to win it. One of the things we're seeing, Tim, is that go look at the leaderboard. As well as he's playing right now, all these young players are playing just as well or a little bit better than him the first two rounds. I think Jordan Spieth's ahead of him. Even a guy like Charlie Halfin, a young kid out of England, Tommy Fleetwood, Ricky Fowler's right there with him. I mean, Justin Thomas is a stroke behind. So, what I think the best part is that we get to see him now compete against a whole new generation. And all these kids grew up watching him and idolizing him, and they've never got their chance at him. And Jordan Spieth is the primary guy, and you get to see it sort of like this time machine, you know? You get to see what he had a hell of a quote this week, Timmy, when he said, I want this new generation to feel what the old generation felt when I'm on. I mean, that was a ballsy quote, right?
Yep.
I mean, that was a ballsy quote. But that's Tiger, right? Earl has had that guy believing in himself since he was 4 years old. So there's still that Earl Woods confidence in him. So I'm not going to write him off come the Masters. Now, let's see. The health will be the thing. If sometime in January, February, March, he takes a swing and winces or his knee does something and he limps, then, of course, the party's over. But if he keeps walking strong and healthy, I can't wait for April.
Yeah, we've talked a ton about this. I just thought he would have to be at max effort to hit the ball with these guys, and I thought maybe even then he couldn't hit the ball as far. But this is not max effort with this swing now. This is kind of a controlled 41-year-old swing, and he's hitting the ball 315. That's what makes me think, okay, there might be something going on here.
Well, you're absolutely right, because the distance thing is interesting. When he burst on the scene in '97, he was way longer than everybody. And remember, the whole concept of Tiger-proofing golf courses came around, and it was like Tiger's distance is such a factor. He was crushing guys. And then the Titleist Pro V1 came along, and guys started to catch up with him a little bit. He lost his distance edge as the mid-00s rolled around, but then he got by because he was still the best player in the game. And then once the '09 collapse happened, and then his back fell apart, it was all over. And you're right, the distance, you're like, well, he's going to come out here, and then what's he going to be hitting at 280, 290, while these other guys are hitting at 320, 325. I mean, Rory McIlroy, Dustin Johnson, these guys are bombers of the golf ball, you know. But Jordan Spieth isn't necessarily a bomber, and he you know, they say, man, hey, Timmy, you knew this the first time you picked up a golf club, baby. Drive for show, putt for dough. My grandpa told me that when I was a little kid. So that's the other thing is we're going to have to watch his short game. I mean, the Tiger Woods from 1997 to 2009 that won 14 majors and 79 tour wins never missed an 8-foot putt with the money on the line. I mean, Timmy, he might have been 100,000 for 100,000 on 8-foot putts for money on the line. And so we're going to have to see. That was one thing that really fell apart after the collapse of his ego and his pride and his body. He started missing huge putts in 2010, 11, 12, 13. Now, in 2013 now, do you remember he climbed all the way back to number one in the world?
Yep.
He won 5 times that year. He didn't win a major, though. And that's the one thing is that the pressure of majors seemed to get to him after the fall. Now, we'll have to see how the pressure of majors gets back to him now, because he'll know it's everything in the world is riding on him. When April rolls around, when the U.S. Open rolls around, the British Open rolls around, the pressure is going to be intense, and it's a neurological fact of life that it's easier to make a pressure putt when you're 24 than when you're 40. He'll be 42 in December, so that'll be the really interesting thing to watch. His putting and necessarily his chipping, which has been a little iffy, even in this little 2-round. Although he chips better today, he's always one of the great chippers of the golf ball. 16th hole at the Masters, so we'll closely watch his chipping and his putting and his wincing.
Well, moving on to another long hitter. This is a Murph-like transition. I'm styling myself after Murph. Giancarlo Stanton.
Oh my gosh!
Murph, now I consider you someone with nobody's got his finger more on the pulse of Giant Dump. The fans, the lunatic fringe, the team itself. Do you think this has come where they're almost pot committed, or they, if they don't get them, it's like a crushing loss for the off season?
Wow, how much time we got? I mean, that is these guys. The Giants. This goes to the culture of the Giants, the culture of the Giants and what they've created in the last few years here is a major factor in this whole deal. Let's say the Giants had never won the World Series once, twice, much less 3 times. You would look at the Stanton deal in a different way. You'd say, yeah, it's nice to have the MVP who hits 59 home runs, but man, they got more issues than that. They got to fundamentally look at their farm system. They got to think about maybe instead of going and acquiring a big piece, maybe dialing it back and maybe do something that your new Athletic Giants writer suggested at the All-Star break, Andy Baggerly, suggested. I read this in the All-Star break and my jaw hit the floor because Andy was out front with it. He said, maybe trade a Madison Bumgarner to avoid the $300 million free agent contract and get your almost full of Billy Beane.
Yep.
and go get your prospects, except for as opposed to Billy, you hang on to your guys and build them up. So I was always thinking that was the prudent way to go, but the culture the Giants have created now, the 3 million plus carnival, that 3 million plus fan carnival that Larry Baer prizes so heavily. It's so important to him and so important to the Giants owners that they have this dominant presence in the Bay Area's mindset, but they feel like they need to go get a Stanton and they need to go keep that. They want the 3 million. They don't want to see 26,000 in Seagulls at AT&T, which is, maybe the natural order of things. I mean, look at the 49ers, right?
Yep.
The 49ers have gone through their down period. Nobody stays on top forever, and it's going to happen to the Patriots when Brady and Belichick, go away. But so it's a long way of saying that I'm enticed and entranced by the idea of adding the National League MVP to a team that just 2 years ago was in the playoffs, but I'm also very wary of the pitfalls of getting into this contractual deal where you're going right back in, because this is the problem they have with too many big contracts, from Johnny Cueto to Jeff Samardzija to Brandon Stinkin' Belt. You're adding a $29 million a year guy, $26 million a year guy for all these years, and you're still not solving your prospect problem. So they are in a bit of they painted themselves into a bit of a corner with this culture they've created, and I kind of feel like they do have to go get them.
Does it remind you of the Bonds thing, or does it remind you of Zeke? I mean, those are the two ones I think of, but they were for different reasons, and they hadn't won a championships back then. But just got to go get someone. Just got to have this park filled. Now it's we got to keep the fans happy. Would you compare and contrast this at all to the Bonds and or Zito signings?
So you're talking about '92 when they signed him from the Pirates? Yeah. Well, that was similar and different. That was Peter McGowan and Larry Baer just bought the team, and then they were hell-bent on letting the Bay Area and Major League Baseball know that they were for real. And it turns out they were for real. They not only did they sign Bonds, but they got the park built, and then they wound up winning 3 championships. So here we are 25 years later, and we look back and we tip our caps to Baer and McGowan because they took a franchise that was always, never a winner, other than obviously when they first came in the 60s, Mays, McCovey, Cepeda, Marichal. And you think back, by the way, as a digression, you think back to if the playoff system of now existed in the 60s and the Mays, McCovey, Marichal, Cepeda Giants who always finished second every year, it seemed like, other than 62, they should go back and look at the 60s. They would win 90 games routinely and not make the playoffs. I keep thinking, if only the wild card existed then, right? Give me some Willie Mays in October of 65.
Well, by the way, this leads me to my subtle point that I really want to ask you, and maybe no one else will join me, but I'm always curious about this. Murph, you're this date in Giants histories. I hear them in other markets, and they're 45 seconds long, oh yeah, the Cardinals, Mike Matheny did this, and okay, now we're on to the game. Yours are novels. How do you do this every year? Do you do different dates, different years? Are you coming up with different things? This is amazing to me.
Well, that's hilarious you say that, because Tom Tolbert, who always has the afternoon shift, and because he's always waiting for those things to end so he can start his talk back with John Miller, he is breaking my balls like you would not believe. He's like, Murphy, would you shut up? Can we get to can I talk to John Miller, please? Can we stop? Because the way the pregame opens is you hear like the opening sound laying out the game. Then we do this date, and then it goes to Tommy to do his talk back with John Miller, which is always entertaining, by the way.
Yeah.
Tommy and John Miller shooting the breeze or type on a Friday when it's an NBC game. But, okay, full disclosure, the same way we're relying on your producer who hooked us up here today,
Yep.
I am relying on my producer, and that's Mike Holler. Let's give him a shout-out. He's the guy who does all the research on that.
Okay.
So I just I embellish them along the way. And it's just a little behind-the-scenes peek. Anytime he gives me something from the 05, 06, 07, or 08 Giants, I tear him a new one. I'm like, nobody wants to hear about Michael Tucker, Steve Finley, and Ryan Garko. Come on, man. Give me some Jack Clark. Give me some Willie Mays. So, anyway, that's kind of a funny behind-the-scenes.
It does seem special, because you and I grew up relatively around the same time, both in the Bay Area. And when you get those, late 80s, mid-80s Giants, those soar, at least for me.
Oh, God.
And
Dude,
they're you're like, in the second inning, this happened with 2 outs. And then in the fourth with 1 out.
Listen, so that is for people like you and me, and they're out there. There's a whole cadre of us who grew up with the Candlestick Giants and understanding that was the National League club, and you were either Giants or A's. And if you were Giants, then the 78 Giants, who did not even win the West, remain one of the most important teams for an entire generation that grew up, right? And
Vita Blue, man. I mean, the whole thing.
The little orange skateboard, man. Yep. They were terrible from the time they traded away. I was too young to remember when they got rid of Mays and McCovey and Marichal. But I came of age like a lot of people. So I'm 50, so I'm talking to the 45 to 54 demographic here. Hello, KNBR. and that's the group that grew up with the bad Giants. So any flicker of hope was huge. So 78, when they competed all summer with Vita Blue, and they never talk about big trades between the Giants and the A's, Timmy. But remember when Ryan Healy just got traded to the Mariners? Everybody wondered, including Carl Stewart, who I enjoy in Dairy News Group, saying, why didn't the Giants go get this guy? I'm like, yeah. And they say the Giants and A's don't do trades. They're like, well, why? And they're like, well, it's just how it is. Well, there's no rule about that. They can make trades. And that was a Vita Blue trade, was a Giants Age trade, when the Giants traded, I believe, 7 or 8 players for Vita Blue. Yep. So anyway, those are great memories, and yeah, I do. And guess what? We're only a couple months away, Tim, from new this date in Giants history. I'm going to give you a little sneak preview. Not too many 2017 highlights.
Oh, no. You're not digging through that. The Padres series in August, combing for those great moments. I'm very disappointed. I'll keep listening, no matter what. I am a loyal listener to this date in Giants history. I'll tell you that. Nobody.
Well, that makes me very happy, man, because it's funny. I mean, there is a little. It's like a cult out there, and if I hit one, if I have a good one, I'll hear from the crowd. And if there's one that's a little subpar, I'll hear from the crowd on that one too.
I just love the layers of it. And then in the 5th inning, they rallied for 2 more runs, but the Dodgers came back. It was just like, I'm listening to the game story. It's awesome.
And then when I'll tell you a little story. When we sit in that room and record those things, I ain't gonna lie. There are times that we're doing a game from 70, even before it was obvious. Everybody loved the Hum Baby Giants. I mean, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89. I mean, it was a great run. Will Clark. But there's something about the Hank Greenwald calls from 70. When we'll throw to a Hank Greenwald call in 82, when Joe Morgan hits a homer or Jack Clark doubles home the winning run in the bottom of the 9th off of Bruce Sutter, when I'll read the script up to the point, and then we throw to the highlight, and I hear Greenwald's call, Timmy, I swear to God, man, I will get freaking triple goosebumps sitting in that studio doing it. When I hear some of those calls, there's something about the audio quality of 1979, 80, 81, 82, the way they were produced in KNBR, and Greenwald doesn't get his due, I don't think. When we always talk about Lon Simmons and Bill King, who are just the deities of Bay Area broadcasting, deservedly so. And, of course, now John Miller, Kruk, and Kipe, I mean, deservedly so. But I always think Hank does it. I think Hank was a phenomenal baseball guy. And I hear a lot of Hank Greenwald and Dwayne Kuiper. I do. And Kipe will tell you that. They call him the captain. He said Hank taught him that. And I know Hank had a falling out with Larry Barrow, right? So that was. But I just always think that Hank's calls he was so droll and dry, and he let the game breathe so beautifully. But when he would get excited, man, the goosebumps were so. Honestly, when you hear those, just know that I was getting all goosebumpy when Greenwald's calling a Jack Clark double that drives in the winning run.
It comes across, Murph. It comes across, and I'm tuning in. If I got to pull in, I keep the radio on through these. If it's a good one.
NPR calls the driveway moment,
there
right?
You go,
NPR calls the driveway.
Yeah, not everyone, but most of them.
No.
I'll tell you that.
Not the Ryan Garco, Steve Finley ones, right?
Yeah, the Ray Durham doubled home.
Oh, dude, Ray Durham. I always give Homer, when I see Ray Durham on the script, I give Homer no end of grief. I'm like, no more Ray Durham! No more Ray Durham!
All right, well, listen, we could go on and on about that one. I'm glad I got it in, though, because I wrote this one down. Ask him about this date in Giants history, because I am fascinated by that. All right.
Who knew we were going to spend as much or more time on that than Tiger Woods, right?
Yeah, maybe not the smartest decision in the world I made, but no, I love it. I love it. Okay, we'll wrap up with the way I always wrap up these, I guess, which I didn't do in the last time we talked, but that was the Super Bowl time, so I think maybe we're a little hectic there.
That's right, Super Bowl 50.
Yeah, absolutely. Murph, what's your favorite restaurant?
Such a great question, and I mean, I know everybody tells you the same thing. You know, there's so many, and you know, but it's no more time to be namby-pamby. You can't say, my mood, if I'm going Mexican or I'm going Chinese or no. You got it. You can't be namby-pamby about this. I'm going to talk about the place that when I walk in there, I know I'm going to have a world-class experience, and not only that, it makes me very happy to be there. And on my 50th birthday, this past September, my beautiful bride Candace, who you know from the Mercury News,
certainly.
of course, she said, so where's it going to be, hon? And I said, you know where it is? It's the House of Prime Rib.
Nice.
That's where it is. I need a San Francisco landmark in an ever-changing city. I need the place that's been there since 1957, I think. Okay, I need that. I need the consistency. Yep. I need the gravy. I need the salad. Yep. I need the potatoes. I need the. Oh, by the way, are you offering me seconds? Oh yes, please do.
Second cut.
Please do.
The second
please
cut.
Do. Give me the second cut.
Yep.
And then walking out onto Van Ness in Washington, breathing that city air. Boom. That's my happy place, Tim.
I gotta go. I've been there many times, Murph, and I cannot. All I can do is support that one. And you paint it beautifully. You make me sort of hungry here, but Murph. And the cream corn, right? I think the cream corn there is ridiculous.
Dude, how did I leave that out? How did I leave that out? Oh, cream spinach if you want.
That too, choice, yeah, absolutely.
I'll do either depending on my mood.
Or both, frankly. All right, Murph.
Good. See you there, Tim. See you there.
I think we're going to get there. All right, Murph, listen, I really appreciate it. Great conversation. This date in Giants history shall never be discussed this thoroughly or this well, frankly.
It was this date in TK podcast history, all right? All right.
You're hired for that, by the way. You were hired for that. All right, Murph.
I'll give you the big sign-up. So it's December 1st, 2017 on this date in TK podcast history.
Awesome. Everybody, that's the show. Thanks.